The Sphere of Time by Cris Hernández. Chapter 1. I can already feel it welling up inside me, the sourceless dread, that awful twisting in my stomach. It's been growing for weeks, and I can sense today is going to be worse than every other day combined. It's barely past mid-morning, but the restlessness already has me on edge. I don't know how much more of this I can take. The meteorology matrix has ensured yet another lovely, temperate day in the city of Vale. Transport pods rush among the massive skyscrapers to the tube-like apparatus that connect the buildings at 44 intervals. Children play on vast, glass-covered balcony spaces filled with greenery, exercise structures, and safety droids. Adults work in windowed offices or lounge in spas and relaxation zones. It's perfect. It's peaceful. Yet I'm miserable. I find myself flying toward one of the skyscrapers near the outskirts of the city. It's an older building, only 140 stories high and still equipped with the previous generation of solar glass. The newer glass is clear, functioning as both an energy tap and a window, but the older material is reflective. As I land atop one of the transport tubes connected to the building, anxiety twists in my stomach again. My reflection in the solar glass is blurry. It's always blurry, even in mirrors. Nothing more than a dark, hazy shape, barely distinguishable as a humanoid form. I've never noticed, but I guess I've been thinking about it more lately. I don't know what I look like, and even more concerning, until a few months ago, I can't even remember thinking that was strange. I drop down to sit atop the tube, legs dangling over the edge. The pale blue of the people's souls glow all around me as everyone attends to their daily routine. They move slow and lazy inside the buildings, like blue fireflies on a warm night. Zipping blue streaks flash above and below as people are carried from building to building in speeding transport pods. Every now and then I notice a flicker in one of those blue lights, but people seem to be dying less these days. As if triggered by my thoughts, an explosive crash breaks the afternoon tranquility. Worried cries and screams come from the intersection of transport tubes on the level below me. Seconds later, I feel two glowing souls extinguish. People have just died. I descend slowly, following the cries to the devastated remains of the transport pods with 3 passengers. The pod must have malfunctioned and veered straight into the side of the tubing. The living energy from the 2 passengers has faded, but the 3rd has survived. Though, with the pod destroyed and unrecognizable, I'm surprised the survivor made it. This marks the first set of deaths today. In fact, they were the first set of deaths in several months. I glide to what little remains of the vehicle and find the 2 who are deceased, a man and a woman. The bodies are penned with the confines of their metal casket, but their souls rise easily, drawn to my presence to leave their broken physical forms behind. The souls don't look much different from their bodies, just blue, transparent, and unmarred by the ravages of the crash. As usual, I carry the unconscious souls away from the scene of their death and wake them up elsewhere. I pick a small indoor park located on the old skyscraper's 33rd floor. Already the sounds of emergency response droids and distressed passers-by permeate the city. Since death is so uncommon these days, I'm sure the ceremony of passing will broadcast to everyone in Vale. But here, amongst the perfectly manicured greenery, there are only 3 of us. With the noise of the accident muted, the man and woman finally gain consciousness and stand up. Where am I?" says the man as he gazes around, dazed. He glances at the woman next to him and jumps, hands covering his mouth as he takes in her translucent blue figure. "Michelle? What?" He stutters to a stop and lowers his hands, freezing as he stares at his own blue limbs. "What's going on?" he whispers. When I take a step in their direction, the man notices me and darts in front of the woman, as if to shield her. I don't blame his hostility, but I do wish people could realize that all I ever want to do is help them. It would make the guiding process that much easier. "I know you must be confused. Please listen, and I will help you," I say. The man takes a step forward while Michelle collapses to her knees, staring in disbelief at her hands. "What's happened to us?" the man demands. "What did you do? Are you from another branch?" I shake my head. "I haven't done anything to you, nor am I from another branch." "Then what are you?" he asked, peering at me with a mixture of bewilderment and fear. "I am death." I used to try and soften it, to ease people into guessing my identity, helping them brace for the news. But I found it never helped. If anything, delaying the revelation only heightened their anxiety. The man regains his voice after a brief moment of shock and silence. "Death? Like the Reaper of Souls death?" he scoffs. "You honestly expect me to—" "Sarah!" Michelle panic scream cuts him off. "Where is Sarah?" she calls out, scrambling to her feet and searching around. Sarah must have been the third passenger, the one still fighting for her life. At this point, the man also realizes that Sarah isn't here and twists in my direction, his face warping sharply. "What have you done to Sarah? Where is she?" Before giving me time to respond, the man rushes to tackle me, but he passes right through me and falls into the grass. He strikes the ground with his fists, but his actions make no sound. "This makes no sense," the man whispers again, head drooping. Michelle covers her eyes as frustrated tears stream down her cheeks. "I can explain," I say, as gently as I can. Their fear and sorrow grate against me. I cannot help but share in their pain. I used to believe I would grow accustomed to it, that my empathy would fade with repetition. But it still hurts. Every time. The man stands and walks back to Michelle, wrapping an arm around her shoulders as she cleans the tears from her face. "Please, tell us where our daughter is," Michelle says, grabbing hold of her partner's hand. "She's still alive," I say. Michelle lets out a sob as her partner embraces her, both shutting their eyes tightly at the implications of my words. "Does that mean we're—" the man begins, but doesn't bring himself to finish. "I don't remember anything. What happened to us?" "You've been in an accident. Sarah's the only survivor. I'm here to guide you to what comes next." Neither of them responds. I'm sure that so many questions are racing through their heads that they can't think of any to ask. For a moment, I feel that I will have to speak up until Michelle breaks the silence. "Isn't there any way we can see her one last time? Even if she can't see us, please." I shake my head. "I'm sorry. She was injured in the crash. If I take you to her now, my presence could draw her closer to death." "She's hurt? Will she be okay?" Michelle demands, fresh panic filling her eyes as she pulls away from her partner. "She's fighting," I answered, dimly sensing the faint, flickering blue light back at the crash site. "My baby," Michelle whimpers. "She's her only daughter. We're all she has." "I'm sorry. There's nothing more I can do." Silence returns to her. I should guide them now, while there's still time. "I'm going to open a tear for each of you. The tears are portals. They will take you to where you need to go." Where's that? What does that mean?" asked the man. "Nothing bad. You walk through the tear, and whatever you see after that is what your soul most desires." I hold out my hand, my palm facing towards them. "There's nothing more you need to worry about." They nod in silence, numbed by all what they've experienced in the last few minutes. I channel my energy to the palm of my hand, and within seconds 2 tears open, stretching until they reach as tall as a doorway. The tears are translucent, but they cause a distortion in the space they occupy. They bend the light around them like large water droplets, causing strange ripples and rainbows to waver within. Hand in hand, Michelle and her partner walk toward the tears until she suddenly stops at the entrance of hers, turning back to look at me. In that instant, I felt her daughter's energy fade. She's dead. "I know I have no right to ask anything of you," Michelle says as she takes a small step toward me. "But please look out for Sarah. She's just a little girl. She's never seen anything like this before." Her voice is hoarse and deep, empty. The void previously filled with their daughter's energy lurks behind me as I stand before Michelle, her eyes locked on mine. I say nothing, and they turn back to their tears. I want so badly to call out to them, but I don't utter a word. In agonizing silence, I watch as they disappear along with their tears. I look toward the wreck and feel the flowing energy of hundreds of people who have likely never seen a transport pod crash in their lives, let alone one severe enough to cause casualties. Within the crowd is a soul that is no longer living, Sarah. Had I stalled her parents for a few moments longer, I would have been able to guide them together, but I didn't. I'm not sure if that choice was merciful or selfish. Perhaps it was both. Open a new tear leading to the wreck. It's not uncommon for a recently departed soul to leave its body and roam around confused or unaware, so I almost expect Sarah to do just that. However, passing through the tear, I find her soul standing near the accident, staring blankly at her own body as the paramedic androids try to start her heart again. She doesn't say a word. She doesn't move an inch. She just watches. As I walk up to her, she turns and looks at me with curious eyes, stopping me dead in my tracks. Something about her seems odd. After guiding billions of souls, I know I'd never remember any of them specifically, but why does it feel like I know her? With her silent gaze still upon me, a ringing sound I've never heard before fills my ears. I try to ignore it and speak to her, but the words come out all muffled and unrecognizable. The world goes blurry, and my head pounds with a sickening migraine. The ringing soon grows so loud that it vibrates my entire body, and I'm forced to close my eyes. After what feels like hours, the ringing finally fades. I open my eyes, the pain and distortion receding as I take in my bearings. To my surprise, I am now standing in a courtyard at the center of what appears to be a devastated town square. It's deafeningly silent. No breeze, no people, no Sarah. The clouds are heavy and dark, completely blocking out the sun. The air smells faintly of iron, and most of the buildings surrounding me are crumbling or completely destroyed. Black vines cover most of the structures, and dark weeds reach out from the cracked ground. I kneel down and grab one of the strange plants, but as soon as I touch it, it crumbles to ash. What is this place? As soon as I get back up, a sweet and flowery scent pervades. Although I'm sure I've smelled it before, I cannot recall from where. It brings out a faint pain in my chest that makes my whole body feel weak. I start to open a tear, but I become lightheaded as I try to gather my energy. That's when I notice two glowing figures a bit farther ahead of me, a boy and a girl, standing on a raised dais. Besides them is a statue of a girl laying on her back holding a single flower. Their gleam reminds me of lighthouses off in the distance, guiding me to safe shore. I slowly ascend toward them in the hopes that there is an explanation to all this. With each step closer, I feel a strange joy rising from the depths of my heart, but something, like a bitter aftertaste, warns me not to trust the growing elation. I pick up my pace, but with every step I take, they glow stronger and brighter, making it that much harder for me to see anything. Soon, they are glowing so vibrantly that the dazzling white light covers everything, and I'm forced to close my eyes again. The ringing sound returns, and I feel like I'm about to pass out until I hear a young voice call out to me, muting everything else. "Mister, are you okay?" I open my eyes and see Sarah standing next to me, a puzzled look on her face. I'm back in the capital city of Vale, right where I was when the ringing first started. The transport tube is now clear of the wreck, and the media drones are filming the scene to broadcast the people that have amassed here from the ceremony of passing. The tube is empty of pods, but filled with mourners. A few people stay in their street clothes, but most are dressed in tasseled white robes adorned with traditional triangular condenser emblems on both shoulders. Beyond the area of the ceremony, everyone else seemed to have gone back to their daily lives. "Mister?" Sarah asks again. "I'm fine," I reply with a shaky smile. "You never answered my question, you know." She pouts while crossing her arms. "You just zoned out." "I'm sorry, Sarah, can you ask again?" "Are you sure there's no way to save them?" she asks. "Can't you bring them back through the tears?" I try to hide my shock at the questions. I don't remember telling her anything. Had I somehow been conversing, even as my mind went to that other place? It's hard to gauge how to reply when I have no recollection of what we already covered. But this question is common, and the answer is always the same. "Sarah," I say after letting out a short sigh, "death can't stop anyone from dying or bring anyone back. All we can do is guide or influence." She turns away from me, her blue form rippling with anger and distress. After giving her a few moments, I gently nudge her forward. We drift through the crowd of people and into a nearby park, larger and more populated than the one I had taken her parents to. After a while, she calms down enough to notice that everyone else is immobilized. The wind had stopped blowing, the birds have stopped chirping, and the people in pods that populate our surroundings have frozen in place. "Why is no one else moving? It's like they're all turned off," she says, staring in amazement as she focuses on a bird that's frozen mid-air just above a holographic directory of the city. "Well, I've stopped time," I say, pleased my distraction is working. "Stop time? How? What do you mean?" She loses her focus on the bird and instead turns her attention back to me. "Well, let's just say that we who hold position of death don't work like you've probably seen in stories." I take a seat on an empty bench facing a cheerfully bubbly fountain. "You see, death regularly stops time to guide souls. That way we can guide everyone and make sure no one gets lost." She glances at me momentarily, as if to check if that was a joke or not, but then the features on her face soften. "No way, really?" I nod, smiling as I try to keep a positive energy going. "What happens when a soul gets lost?" "You know, I'm actually not sure. All I know is that it's dangerous for a soul to remain outside for too long. Nothing good can come of a soul getting lost." I look around to try and figure out the best way to amuse her without tampering too much with time, and come back to the bird she had originally had her attention on. "I'll show you something neat, but only this once, okay?" "Okay," she says. I open my free hand and face it away from us, channeling my energy and creating a tear a few feet ahead. I start to pass through it, but Sarah stops right before the entrance. "Wait, didn't you say that if I passed through the tear I would, leave?" I can only imagine that I was in the middle of explaining the whole passing process to her before I woke up from that place. I look at her and speak in my calmest voice. I can create 2 different types of tears. One that will guide people who have passed on, and the other one simply for travel. This one will take us someplace special. Trust me. She doesn't respond or move forward, so I wait. Eventually the suspicion leaves her eyes and she takes my hand, stepping gingerly through the tear. Any lingering concern immediately vanishes from her expression as she takes in the new view with a gasp. We're standing at the base of a cliff, facing toward the towering waterfall. The enormous deluge pours from over 100 meters above, showering us in a faint mist. A blissful smile spreads across her face as she gazes upwards, drinking in every detail. "Whoa," Sarah says as she stares. "Look!" She points at the flock of colorful birds passing above us. "See, Sarah? I told you tears aren't so bad." She turns and smiles at me. I'm hit with another wave of unexplainable familiarity, as if I've seen this particular smile 100 times before. I try to turn back and look at the waterfall, but my vision suddenly goes blurry. I'm thrown back into the desolate place again. There's no city, no waterfall, and no Sarah. I look around and see no signs of life anywhere. I'm near the statue of the girl, with no trace of the mysterious figures I had witnessed before. I walk up to the statue to read its placard, hoping to learn anything about where I am or what time I'm in. Before I can reach it, reflections of light and mist coalesce before me in the form of a woman. She has long black hair and bright white eyes. Her feet hover a few inches above the broken cobblestone. Thin black lines, like cracks, run across her pale skin. I stand frozen in place as she glides in a full circle around me. She stops a few inches in front of me and raises her left hand, moving it close to my cheek as if intending to touch it. A second before her fingers could have brushed my face, she vanishes as silently as she arrived. I'm held captive there for several moments after she leaves. I close my eyes, fighting to make sense of everything spinning through my mind. "Hello? Are you there?" A voice? "Look, you missed it!" I open my eyes and look to my right, where Sarah stands pulling at my hand. "Are you just gonna keep ignoring me?" I look at her, confused, and then turn my gaze to the waterfall. I try my best to smile, but I feel my facade fading. "You totally missed one of the birds diving into the water." "I'll pay closer attention from now on," I say, stumbling for words. Flickers of that place clamor for my attention, making it difficult to focus. "How did you find this place? It's so beautiful." I stop to think, but nothing comes to me. How did I come across this waterfall originally? There's no trail or road to be seen. I don't recall ever guiding someone from here. "Hey, did you ever come here when you were alive?" This is even more unexpected. I've never had someone ask me that before. "When I was alive?" I respond. "Yeah, you mumbled something about this being the perfect place to settle." She pauses briefly. "But you can't have a family anymore since you've become death." My whole body trembles as my chest burns. I know instinctively that I was once human, but that's not something I would ever tell a soul, let alone a child. Come to think of it, I can't remember when I became death. I can't remember my human life. Did I ever have a partner? A family? Have I guided any of them without even knowing it? I get goosebumps thinking that, after all this time as death, I can't remember my own life, my own family, my own face. I can't remember anything. I don't remember a time I ever stopped to think back on me. I've existed for so long. Did I always assume that the memories would be there, but never actually bring them up? My mind flashes back to that desolate place. Where do I come from? Where have I been? I can't remember my own name. Alex? Jonathan? No. Audrey? No, none of these are me. Questions after questions fill my head, leaving me with an unimaginable migraine as I begin to shake. I'm trying to calm myself down when I notice Sarah looking up at me, and I swear I see pity in her eyes. She must know that there's something wrong with me. I've never seen a look like this coming from a soul before. I don't think I've ever felt lonelier than in this moment, though I guess I wouldn't know. I can't remember. I think I'm ready, Sarah says, a faint resolve in her eyes and voice. I'm not sure if she's doing this because she recognizes that there's something terribly wrong with me, or if this is really all she needs to experience before passing, but I nod and try to focus on opening a tear behind her. She hugs me tightly for a few seconds and then takes a couple steps back, smiling. A few tears start to well in her eyes, but she brushes them off with one hand as she waves with the other. "Bye-bye," she says before turning around. "Thank you for everything." She walks through the tear and I close it. Instantly I return to my mind. The fluorescence seems to fill the air around me as I try to recall every detail of the two glowing figures. I think they're souls of two people, but I still can't make out their faces. No matter how hard I try, I can't make any connections, but that feeling that I know them ensnares me. Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you like what you heard and would like to hear more, please hit the like and subscribe button. If you so happen to find yourself with your own published book and would like to submit your first chapter for a free audio cover, just email me at ebonyclock@yahoo.com with your first chapter, book cover, genre, and a brief synopsis of your book. See you next time on Ebony Clock Promotions.